Hey y'all, it's Vibi. We're back with the second cooking video in my cooking series. This time we will be creating a vegan cow soy recipe. Cow soy is a traditional Thai dish. We're gonna make our own curry paste from scratch. Let's get into it. That's good. Today we're making vegan cow soy, which is a coconut noodle soup dish. And we're gonna head to the breakdown of the ingredients, so let's get into it. So we're gonna need 3 cloves of garlic, 2 sticks of lemongrass, 3 lime leaves, a shallot, a thumb-sized piece of galangal root, a small half a thumb size of turmeric root, 1 tablespoon of white miso paste, a tablespoon of ground coriander, 8 dried bird's eye chili peppers, and we're gonna deseed them and then soak them in water for 2 to 4 minutes. We're gonna blend all that up, and then we're basically gonna dilute it with some coconut milk and vegetable broth and add our tofu and veggies and some rice noodles, and that'll be it. We're gonna start off by preheating the oven, which I've already done, to 400 degrees. And if you're able to, take a block of tofu and press it. Before I had a tofu press, I did this with some plates and some books, stacking some books on top of some plates. But it gets the moisture out of the tofu and it adds a much better texture. This has been pressing for maybe 10 minutes. Now I'm going to chop up this tofu block. So the tofu has been chopped into 16 pieces. I've melted some coconut oil here because I feel that it gives a better flavor than olive oil, considering that the dish is coconut based that we're about to make. We're simply going to season with salt and pepper that you can season with whatever else you might want. This dish is gonna be full of a lot of heavy aromatics, so I prefer to keep my tofu a little bit simpler. So maybe a teaspoon of pink Himalayan sea salt and a teaspoon of black pepper. And we're just gonna try to mix that up a bit. Now it's simple, but it's gonna turn out really good to put in our cow soy. If you don't want tofu in your cow soy, you don't have to, it's just an option. My favorite part about this dish is we start with a curry paste. We're gonna make our curry paste from scratch. It's gonna be full of a lot of like heavy aromatics, like lemongrass. And there's a particular way that you want to cut this up. So you wanna cut the ends off. And then you want to take it and slice it down the middle. Now lemongrass stalks are a little tricky. When I first started cooking, what I didn't realize was that this purple part here, it has the best smell out of the whole lemongrass stalk. We're going to add little bitty slits, not necessarily a chop, but all this is gonna do is aid in us beating it with the stick from a mortar and pestle. This makes it so that the smell is even more powerful, and so will the flavor be. We're going to add this into our blender to make our fresh curry paste. The next thing is lime leaves. I like 3 lime leaves. Some people like a little more or less. These taste a little bitter to me, so I prefer to add some, but not too many. Also, a thumb size of turmeric. It's really hard to find turmeric powder here that has not been mixed previously with curry powder or chili powder. So you could do turmeric powder, but I would always opt for turmeric root if possible. And then the next one is probably my favorite ingredient, galangal root. Galangal root is super fragrant. You're gonna want about double the amount of turmeric root. The next thing, 3 cloves of garlic. You're gonna want dried bird's eye chili peppers. When I got my chili peppers, I took 8 chili peppers and I cut them in half and deseeded them. And then I saved everything but the seeds, and I soaked them in water for about 4 minutes. The benefits to that is it becomes spicy. The cow soy gets kind of a more bright color, but without adding too much spice. It's like just the perfect amount for me. You're gonna want a whole shallot. The last two things in our curry paste before we add water is going to be a tablespoon of ground coriander. If the consistency of your curry paste is not what you like, you can feel free to add a little more water if it's too thick, or a little more ground coriander if the paste is too thin for your liking. The next thing is gonna be this mellow white miso paste. I remember when I first went vegan and started cooking, so this is just a tablespoon. But I had a hard time because I found that whenever I tried to recreate certain Asian dishes, I wasn't getting a certain kind of possibly fishy flavor that sometimes is present. And I find that miso paste really helps with this. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add just a little bit of water. And for you guys who like amounts, I would say maybe a 1/4 cup. Check this out. This smells amazing. So there you have it, fresh made curry paste. I don't feel like it took very long. The ingredients are somewhat challenging to find, but you might have it at your local Asian mart, which is where I found some of mine. Now that the curry paste is made and we've got the oven preheating to put the tofu in there, we're going to start boiling the noodles. One of the things that I like to be careful of is the kind of coconut milk I buy. A lot of coconut milk brands contribute to exploiting monkeys in order to obtain the coconuts used to make the coconut milk. So I advise shopping for Native Forests coconut milk, as that's always a safe brand. Now that this is boiling, what we're gonna do is we're going to cut open our rice noodles. Now we're gonna put the tofu in the oven. Now that that oven is preheated to 450 degrees, we're gonna let it cook for 20 minutes. Now, we're gonna chop up some sour mustard for garnish. So I first made Khao soy after my sister came home from college. She went to the University of San Francisco, where she also studied philosophy, oddly enough. But she told me about this one dish after she graduated that she really loved, and it was called Khao soy. There was a vegan one. And at that point, I'd been cooking a few months, so she asked me if I could make it for her. I said, sure. And at this point, I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna be really simple. I'll just follow a recipe. I'll just see what it usually entails, veganize it a little bit. But what I didn't realize was that access to ingredients would be such a challenge. Even going to the Asian mart. I went to one in Memphis and they didn't have sour mustard. I went to another one and they did have it, but that seemed like they basically said it wasn't something they often had. But my sisters loved pickled things since like before I can remember. So now I'm just going to grab a little bit of coconut oil, because coconut oil gets a little hardened. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put it in the bottom of the pan and just let that heat up a little bit. At this point, the coconut oil is heated up in the pan. We've made our curry paste. So the next thing we're gonna do is add the curry paste to the pan. You see how thick this looks? Every last little bit. You're gonna let the curry paste cook for just maybe 1.5 minutes with the oil in the pan. You can see it bubbling already. Now that it's bubbling and it looks a little bit like separating, we add a little bit of coconut milk. We're gonna try to add the cream part and the liquid part. I've added maybe 1/4 of 1 can of coconut milk. When it gets to the point where it's bubbling like this, cook it for maybe another 30 seconds before you add in the rest of the coconut milk. I find that being pretty precise about when you put in the coconut milk helps the flavor. Now I've added in the rest of the coconut milk can. So that's 1 whole can of coconut milk in there. So now that the rice noodles are boiled, we are going to strain them. Now it's probably time to open up the second coconut milk can. So now that we have added both cans of coconut milk and our curry paste to the pot, we are going to add our vegetable broth. This is 2 cups of vegetable broth. The next thing we're gonna do is add some salt and pepper. We're going to take some gluten-free soy sauce. I usually fill about a bottle cap, which I would say is a tablespoon. That is our broth. What we're gonna do next is add bok choy. You can add whatever vegetables of your choice that you want. I just happen to like bok choy. Now I'm just gonna do a little bit of prep work for garnish because we're close to done. As soon as the tofu comes out of the oven, we're golden. We've got cilantro for garnish. We've got sour mustard. We've got our lime. And for a topping, people might want chili oil. So the oven is just beeped. It's just been cooking at 450 for 20 minutes. Do you see how golden that is? We want this tofu to stew in the flavors of the khao soy broth we just made. They look perfectly crispy and gold. It's exactly how I like mine. And probably a reason why they crisp so well is because I pressed it for a few minutes with the tofu press. We're gonna let it simmer for a little bit. There we go. Those are the rice noodles. Don't forget to get some bok choy and tofu. It is gonna be soupy and creamy. We're going to squeeze a little bit of lime, some cilantro on top, and maybe some sour mustard if you're into that kind of thing, like my sister is, and even chili oil. And there you have it, khao soy. Ready for the taste test? That's good. You want to try this. That's it. That's the recipe. Thanks for watching.